Welcome to Unselfishly Me, a podcast all about self-love, self-care, and everything in between. I'm Jane, a personal trainer with a focus on self-love. Each week, we'll be chatting to someone about their self-love journey, how long it took, and what it took to get there. Today on the podcast, I have Che Dyer, also known as Indie Yoga Life, and if you've been following her for a number of years, you might know her as Indie Berries. That's how I know her. A friend had shared her blog years and years ago when she was blogging as Indie Berries, and she was just hysterical with cartoons, and yeah, she was just living her life in Korea, and it was just so fun to follow her. So I've been following her since then. And yeah, just watching her transformation into who she is today as a yoga teacher, living in London, it's just been so special, and she's hilarious as well, so that helps. So I'm so excited to talk to Che, and yeah, we just had a little catch up during the Corona quarantine. So thanks to Che for joining me, and I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Che. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me, Jane. It's nice to be on another podcast. So I am Che. I'm a South African and I live in London with my husband. I am originally trained as a graphic designer. So I've done a lot of work with cartoons and blogging and creative design work. And I'm also a yoga teacher. So for the last 6 years, I've been teaching yoga, which I absolutely love. And what I'm moving to now is these retreats and offerings where there is a really unique blend of creative practices and yoga practices, because I believe that it comes from the same place, that place of stillness, that place of calm, that place of inspiration where you access your creative potential is the same place where you come home to in the yoga practice. So for me, it's like this beautiful synchronicity of these two different parts of my life that I'm now offering to other people. But yeah, I live in London, very happy, been married for almost 7 years. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what I do and who I am. Yeah.
I can't believe it's been almost 7 years already. It feels like the other day.
I know. It's been a long, interesting journey with one another, but 7 years in April. Who knows how we'll be spending our anniversary with Corona. We'll be inside somewhere.
So what does self-love mean to you?
The self-love to me is a lot to do with your sense of worth. And I think that comes through a feeling of really being able to stand in exactly who you are without needing to say the right thing or to please anybody else or to be perfect or to look a certain way or to act in a certain way or to any kind of behaviors. But it's about just coming home to a place of like belonging to yourself and standing fully in who you are without needing to justify it, without needing to do anything. And for me, it's been a long road to get to a place in this. And I think it will always be a continuous journey because there's always new things that we have to learn and things that we have to explore within ourselves. But I can definitely say that my relationship to myself is very different now compared to what it was 5, 10, 7 years ago for sure. And a lot of it does come down to this practice of introspection, this practice of yoga, this practice of meditation, observation, self-growth and learning that comes through embodiment is really where I see there's so much potential for expanding your sense of self-worth.
So just building on that, what has your self-love journey looked like?
I don't know if you've listening, if you know much about the backstory of where I have been, but when I was living and teaching English in South Korea, I'm also got a PGCE, so I'm a qualified teacher. I was living and working in South Korea teaching English, and I ended up in a relationship with a guy who was a South African guy, but really emotionally manipulative, emotionally abusive. He was never physically abusive, although there were a few moments in that relationship that I did have physical fear. I felt like this is escalating quickly, and I feel unsafe. And there was definitely moments in that where there's a shutdown that happens in the nervous system because you have to do it as a way of surviving. And through that relationship, my sense of self-worth, which is what I connect to self-love, my sense of self-worth was so low that it was really hard for me to find that place of love within myself. So my journey back to this place of worth of myself has been a lot about really untangling the mind, because mind is what brings you down in those situations, because it's so controlled by the external world. And especially if you're in a relationship that's controlling or manipulative, then you kind of get pulled down by that, and you have this really shattered sense of who you are. So building back that place of wholeness has been this journey for me, and it's come through yoga, it's come through loving, nurturing relationships that I have now with my husband and through other people, and um, really, really like observing the mind, and finding that place of question between what is true and what is something that is a story that I'm creating in my head. And I think that's a really a good starting point. And yeah, the relationship that I have with myself now is completely different to how I was showing up, how I was behaving, how I was thinking, how I was feeling 10 years ago, or even 7 years ago, 5 years ago. You know, it's this continuous evolution that's been really empowering to be on. And it will continue to be this journey throughout the rest of my life, I think.
So, what little self-care things do you do daily?
So every day I meditate, and it's interesting because I was reflecting on this, and definitely there are different seasons to my life, and I wouldn't say okay, well every single day I do this, 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 this. There is ritual that I build into my day, but I think it depends on where I am in my life. And for the last probably how long? A couple of months now, meditation every day has been a non-negotiable for me. It's been something that I'm like, this is really important where I am right now in my life. Whereas maybe 3 years ago, it was daily movement of yoga every single day. And that is how I practiced every single day for movement. And that was my thing. Whereas in other times, it might be I have a really strong journaling practice, or I have a really strong self reflection practice, or I have a really strong practice that is nourishing my body through different foods that I'm eating. So I think it's very seasonal. I think it's important to honor those seasons, because life is not always the same day to day. We have different seasons in our external world. You know, when it's winter and it's darker, maybe then you having more of those introspective practices or those journaling practices. And maybe when it's hotter and it's sunny outside, then you're more outside and you into the body, and that's the way that you nourish yourself, through healthy movement, through yoga, through breath work, through getting sweaty, through moving things through the body in that way. But it's important to honor that there's seasons in our external world as well as seasons in our internal world. You know, if I think of the prenatal, the postnatal period, that will look wildly different to somebody who's in their 20s, which will look wildly different to someone who's moving through menopause, or wildly different to someone who's grieving a loss. Like there's so many different seasons within our life. And I think it's important that we honor and have these self-care practices that reflect where we are, because that's the most nourishing thing, and that's the most self-caring thing that we can do, is to really acknowledge where we are, rather than trying to wish us out of where we are by doing something that we've always done because that's the thing that we needed to do.
And I think that comes down to also just being kind to yourself.
Exactly. So, and that kindness is about just, here I am, this is where I am right now. And if I'm not doing my 1 hour of CrossFit every single day, it's okay, because this is a different season of my life. So yeah.
No, I totally agree. You started off in the online world with a blog called Indie Berries. So that's how long I've been following you. Tell us where you were, when, and why you started it.
So, as Jane said, Indie Berries is the blog that I ran for 6 or so years, perhaps. And I actually started that blog as I ended that relationship with that really emotionally manipulative ex-boyfriend. And in that relationship, I can say that a lot of my creative self was really stifled. A lot of the things that brought me joy, that brought me a sense of fulfillment, it brought me that sense of feeling love and peace and worth, and just that's how I filled up my cup, was through being creative, through expressing myself in different ways. But that was really shunned in that relationship, and that was really it felt like I was I had to put a stopper on those things because it wasn't safe to express them. And I would kind of be in this relationship where I'd be shouted at, or something would be said about me doing something. And I can remember watching a movie with this guy, and I was working on doing a scrapbooking thing while I was watching the movie, and he just got so angry with me trying to scrapbook while I was watching the movie. And why can't you just watch the movie with me? And I'm like, but I am sitting here watching the movie, but I really want to do this scrapbooking as well. And it's just like that whole curtailing of like, or kind of pushing down and shoving down of creative practices because it didn't serve him and it didn't make him feel safe. I don't know. And I think when that relationship ended, I had so much creative energy, so much expression that was not expressed in that relationship, but I needed somewhere to outlet it. So I started writing this blog, and I started just drawing cartoons and drawing all these different creative things. And I was blogging about different designs and blogging about different creative things around the world and just different photography skills and taking pictures. And it was a very creative DIY. It was a really like kind of expression time in my life. And the cartoons are just a way that I could share and entertain and just express myself in a way that I hadn't in that relationship. And it garnered a lot of interest and a lot of readers in quite a short space of time. I think because blogging back then was quite a new medium. And also doing cartoon blogs is something that is easy for people to digest. It's a funny thing. They can scroll through it in a really quick format and get a laugh and share it easily. And so, I started with that, and I've since evolved that blog into CheDyer.com, which is my name. And I think although it was really sad to say goodbye to Indie Berries because it felt like, I'm saying goodbye to this part of me. But I think standing in my own name, it comes back to that place of worth again. It's like, here I am, I'm standing in who I am, and it can evolve and it can change, and I don't need to try and fit a mold to make everybody else happy, but this is who I am right now, and it feels really good. So that's my kind of online journey and how it relates to where I was in my life and where I am now.
And you also won an award, didn't you?
Yeah, so we it was actually crazy because I got a message from the South African Blog Awards, and back then I don't know if South African Blog Awards are actually even still running, but I got this message to say that I'd be nominated for these blog awards, and would I come out to South Africa to perhaps receive this award. I was like, this is crazy. Like, am I going to fly all the way from South Korea back to South Africa potentially to win this blog award? Like, this is crazy. And the guys who were hosting this awards ceremony said, look, we think that there's a really good chance that you're going to win this award, so maybe you should come back. I was like, okay, well, let me just do this. It was a crazy thing. And I flew back to South Africa. It was in Cape Town. And I ended up winning this blog award, which was super fun. I met a whole lot of other really cool bloggers, some of whom I'm in contact with at the moment. But it was just like this crazy fun thing. And from there, I kept blogging, kept kind of allowing people into our lives. And through that story, then Warren and I got engaged and got married. And I think people then also could see there was this person that they were following and this love story that was evolving. And one of my most popular posts ever has been our engagement story post, which I think just shows people love to feel connected to other people. And when people share from a very vulnerable, open space, that allows people to connect. So and our love story is really a beautiful journey of a test of time. And so I think people really resonate with that as well.
Yeah, your love story really is a beautiful one. So tell us in a nutshell, but everyone must go read the post about it and see the cartoons. Tell us in a nutshell about your timeline and everything, but they must definitely go and read the proper blog post. There's cartoons and everything.
Yeah. So Warren and I dated at university for 8 months. I think it was 8 months. I was 2 years behind him at university. So when he was finishing up and I was still in my second year, we decided that it was better just for us to separate. I still had 2 more years of university, lots of partying, lots of fun to be had. And Warren was heading to do a ski season. And then he was moving to London to work for 2 years is what his plan was. And so we left, we kind of broke up on very amicable terms. But it was a clear, a break, and he's moving on and I'm doing my own thing. And he came to London. I finished my 2 years at university, at Rhodes University. And after that, I decided to move to South Korea to live and teach English there. And I think part of me recognized that if I moved straight to London after coming out of university, if I moved straight to London, I think Ron and I would have easily gotten back together straight away. And I don't think that would have been in the best interest of us as a relationship. And if I reflect back on that now, I think that was a really important decision for me, to have that separated time to go and date this idiot guy that I dated. I mean, yeah, but go and date this other guy that I dated in South Korea. It was important for my journey. But yeah, we separated then for 6 years. We met once in holiday in Thailand, kind of soon after I'd moved to South Korea, which was maybe 3 years or 3.5 years after Warren and I dated. We just met up on holiday, and how are you doing? And everything's cool. At that stage, I'd already been involved with this other guy. I kind of was just starting to date him. And we kind of kept in touch, but then when I got more involved with this ex-boyfriend of mine who was living in South Korea with me, my contact with Warren started. I was really distanced from him, and I was like, actually, please, can you not contact me, because it's causing problems, and we need to just really separate this, which we did. We completely, kind of cut ties. And the years passed, and I eventually was able to get myself out of the relationship that really wasn't serving me. And it was a couple of years after that, and Warren messaged me, and he was like, look, I still follow you, and I still kind of have random messages here and there, or an email every now and then. Should we not just see if there's something still here for us? And so I flew then to London to visit him in August, and I had a 2-week holiday with him, and we both decided this was really still something really special. And it was 6 years after we had actually first dated. And we decided, okay, this is still something really special. And I flew back to South Korea, finished my contract at the end of the year, and then moved back to South Africa. And in April, he flew out and proposed to me. So it was this crazy time of us not really ever officially dating ever again, but him proposing to me when we hadn't lived on the same continent for 6 years. We hadn't been dating, and it was like this really surreal time, because then he flew out from London, proposed to me, and then flew back to London. And then I was sitting with, okay, so now I'm engaged. My fiance is in London, and we spent that year planning the wedding, and I kind of flew backwards and forwards between London and South Africa, but kind of really just dating this person again. But anyway, we were engaged. And then we got married, and a month after the wedding, once I'd organized my visas and everything, I flew over to London to finally live with Warren. And it was the first time in 6 or 7 years that we had actually been living in the same continent, but we were married. So it was this really really strange, surreal time. So that first year of marriage was really us dating again. It was like, oh, this is this new person that I knew before, that I know is for me, that now I'm re-finding again, which was really interesting. And I must say that first year of marriage was actually, I think I struggled in that first year of marriage, because it was for me a new place, a completely new environment. It was dark. It was winter in London. I had been on a new contraceptive pill, which was like a complete hormone nightmare jumble scramble. There was so much of my self-worth that's still tied up with this old ex-boyfriend, from an emotional, energetic sense of self perspective, not from a physical or I'm still in contact with this person, but just there was so much that was tied up in that relationship that I hadn't yet worked through. And so I think that first year was actually really tough. Like it was a really challenging year for me personally, but and I think also then for Warren too, because we're in it together. And I think that having that stability of him and him being the person that he is was really grounding for me, and it was really it invited me back to that place of sense of worth within myself. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey for us, and now we're almost 7 years married, and it's definitely the right relationship for us.
Yeah, you almost get a sense of him being like, and I've never met him, I've only met you, but almost like he's like a safe harbor, and he just seems like a really grounded, stable, like he's got a good sense of humor, but just like he very much balances you, I think.
100%. That is definitely true. And I think also from this perspective of the journey that we've been in, I don't think our relationship would be what it is if we hadn't had that proper separation, if we hadn't had that break to really test the bounds of our relationship and to really know for certain that this is who we are choosing. It's not just because we ended up in a relationship and then it kind of just lingered and 1 year turned into the next, and then it felt like, okay, well, I guess the next thing to do is to get married. It was a choice that we made to come back together, which I think has really been important for the evolution of our relationship.
I think you could say that your relationship has been intentional.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Very,
like
very
every
much
step,
so.
basically.
Very much so. And I think that it shows in the relationship that we have with each other.
Yeah, especially your drunken cooking stories.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And he is definitely the cook. Let me just add that in.
So another account that you run on Instagram and you share about is called Wedding Dress Adventures. I know the very sad story behind it, but other people probably don't. But it's sad, but then also this account is amazing. So tell us a little bit about why you created the account, because this is obviously following on from your love story.
Yeah. So when Warren and I were married, we spent ages deliberating. Well, it was me. It spent ages deliberating over the right photographer, and I wanted to get the beautiful style. And like photographs are so important to me. Like I spent ages like trying to choose this perfect person, and this person wasn't available, and we want this one. And it was a huge big thing. And we had our wedding. We chose a photographer that we really loved, and a couple of months after our wedding, I'd said to him, "Hey, just checking in. Are there any photos that you have for us from the wedding?" And he'd sent a few like random screenshots. I was like, "Okay, cool." And then a few months passed. "Hey, just checking in again. Are there any photos from the wedding?" And he replied back and said, "No, I'm sorry. I've been so sick. I haven't been well. Like I haven't had any time." I'm like, "Oh, okay, no worries. Like get better soon." And then again, a few weeks later, I was like, I feel like something's not right. Can I just check in? Are there any photos that you have for us? I know you said they were going to come on Friday. Sorry, I've been in Greece. I've been on this, da, da, da. And turns out that I got an email from him and it said, "Hey, Shay, I haven't been completely honest with you." And what had happened is that this photographer had his hard drive sitting on top of his spare hard drive, which was on his desk, and his dog came past and knocked these hard drives off the table. He tried to switch these hard drives on, and it had something called a head plate scratch, or a disk scratching thing. Basically, these two parts on the hard drive connect towards each other and they scratch all the information that's on there. And we lost all our wedding photos. And I was absolutely devastated, like absolutely inconsolable. Just all the memories of friends and family, and capturing the emotion of that day, and just it's a moment in your life that you can never recreate in terms of the intensity of how you feel. And just we had no documentation of any of those special moments. And so a few months after this whole debacle came to light, which was so hard to try and move through. And I can imagine that the photographer was just feeling so awful about the whole situation, which is why it had been delayed and telling us instead of just coming out straight with it in the forefront. But Warren and I were going to a music festival, and I was just feeling so sad about not having any photos of me in my wedding dress. And as a joke, I turned to him and I was like, "You know what? I'm going to take my wedding dress." And he was like, I expected him to be, no, well, why would you take your wedding dress? Like, what are you going to do? And he just turned around, he looked and he said, okay, what should I wear? And I was like, this moment of, oh, okay, we're going to do this. And so we took our wedding kits to this festival that we went to in Belgium. And we ended up getting on national Belgium TV station because they couldn't believe that this couple were wondering about this festival in their wedding kit. And it's a big wedding dress that I have. It's not kind of a slinky one. It's a proper wedding dress. And from there, we just decided that it was so much fun to relive that wedding experience and to have some quote unquote pictures taken in our wedding kit as if we were getting married. But on the next holiday we went to, I said, Warren, maybe we should just take the wedding dress again. And he was like, yeah, okay, cool. And it just started growing and evolving. And now every single place that we've been to since losing our wedding photos, we've taken our wedding dress and wedding dress, and Warren takes his suit, or sometimes he dresses according to the place that we're going to. And we've taken this around the world, and we've got all these amazing photos of us in our quote unquote wedding day, in all these cool locations. So it's been a really good way to turn a really sour situation to something that's really, really awesome. And now we've got this amazing gallery on our wall above our stairs with all these different photos of us in our wedding dress adventures. So yeah, it's a good story.
I think, yeah, it's been so fun to follow on and see everything. I think also with the whole photographer drama, like us as your readers, so I'll obviously get into how I followed you, but us as your readers were like also devastated because you're such a creative person. You'd been creating all your decor, like making it yourself for like months, and we'd been kind of following along and anticipating seeing the photos and like the table decor and this and that. And because I was following you and Kerry, and I was just like
Yeah.
seeing you guys banter on your blog posts, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be so amazing. And then I think we were just like all in shock for you.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. It definitely did have that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I can't. And even now, like I have a scrapbook where I've tried to like put together some of the wedding memories, and I pull it out and I start doing it, and then I get so defeated because I'm like, there's nothing really for me to put in here other than like the wedding cards that I've received and like the little bits and pieces of paper of the actual table decor that I do have. But there's no photos and there's no there's no through line. It's just like these random scraps that I have. But it's part of our journey, and I'm not sorry for how it's turned out. It would be lovely to have some pictures, but also we've got this really cool story that is now with us for the rest of our lives and throughout our marriage, not just that one single day.
Yeah, you can keep doing it for like years to come.
Yeah, exactly. So there is some positive in it.
But I also feel like if something like this was going to happen, it would happen to you. Like, why does it feel like that?
Although, yeah, I don't. I suppose there's a way to look at it as if like, oh, this is the victim, this is happening to me, or it's like, wow, there's this really cool opportunity that we've now made something really awesome out of it, and it's something that's really unique, and it's our story, and it's special to us. So I think a lot of it is, I think, to do with mindsets and how you view opportunities or losses or things like that. And I think I'm a person who's got a very good positive outlook on situations that can really like be quite devastating. Of course there's a moment when you're like, oh shit, why did this happen? But if you can reframe it and look at it in another lens, then it's really empowering.
Like it happened for you, not to you.
Exactly.
People have to go and read your posts, and about my favorites are like and they're mostly cartoons. It's always about
Yeah.
food, your teeth,
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
your
And I
dentist
think like,
drama.
no, my dentist drama, my teeth, my cooking, like there's lots of fun cartoons. And I wish I had more time actually to do more cartoons because I love doing them. But just there's so much other stuff that I have on the go in terms of what I want to do and how I want to help serve other people. And I think that's was the hard learning that came from moving away from indie berries, because at that stage of my life I thought like I'm really serving people because I'm giving them some laughs, I'm giving them some lols, like it's fun and people are entertained, which is beautiful. But there's what I've realized in how much I have changed and grown as a person, and the healing that I have experienced. I'm like, wow, there is a really deeper way that I can help people. There's a deeper way that I can serve people because I've experienced it and I've moved through this myself. So for me to be able to, okay, these cartoons are fun and they're really entertaining. I love doing them because they give people a laugh and they give people a lol. But wow, there's a powerful gift that I can share with people, and it's deeper than the surface level cartoons. So it's been an interesting thing to try and like kind of balance those two, because they're still both part of me and I still both enjoy them. But yeah, there's really opportunity for people to really, really have some powerful shifts within themselves. And I would love to be the person to help facilitate that for people. And that's definitely where I'm moving to more and more.
So that was my next question. Your cartoons were my best. So you still do them, but obviously it takes up a lot of time. So what do you love about
Yes.
them?
I think it's that creative expression, and it's something that I can do because it's a unique skill set of mine. And it's also the way for me to bring humor, to bring lightheartedness. There's no expectation on it. And I think that's where the challenge is, because if I'm investing a lot of time and energy into something, it's taking away time and energy that I could be spending in something else. So I have to balance that between, okay, where is this moving me forward in terms of being able to help people, being able to serve people, being able to run a successful business, versus this is something that I do just for the fun of it, for a lull, for humor, without expectations, which has its value as well. Like I do believe that there's value in doing creative things just for the sake of creating. So yeah, and certainly now while Corona's been on, I'm like, oh, I've got all the time in the world. That's why I've been making more cartoons, and I've been able to get back into that a little bit more, because I'm not traveling to yoga studios, I'm not teaching as much, I'm not got a million things on the go with private clients and different sessions all over the place. So I'm enjoying this slower pace of life, I have to say.
And Warren's got your computer, so you can draw on your iPad.
So Warren's on my computer, so I can't work. I'm using that as a really good excuse, actually.
Amazing.
He's in the room next to me, and he says, yeah, he's concurring that. He said it's a really great excuse.
We should get Warren on. We'll have to get him in for a question at the end since he's there.
Yeah, okay, I'll call him in for a question at the end. Did you hear that, Warren? You're coming in for a question at the end.
We'll do Sunday stories on a
He's a-
Tuesday.
yeah, exactly. Sunday stories on a Tuesday.
So you found yoga, and that's another love story, I think. Tell us about that journey.
So yoga for me came into my life through Lulu Becker, and I think you've maybe interviewed her on the show.
Lily Physio.
Yes, yeah, she's a friend of mine from school, and she was doing her yoga teacher training, and she said to me, "Look, I need somebody to practice my teaching on." I was working from home at the time, and she said, "Can I come and practice on you?" I said, "Yeah, sure, you can come over." And every week she'd come over and practice teaching on me. And I just started feeling that every single day I did yoga with her, I just had the sense of peace. And I had the sense of like, oh, I feel different today. Like I feel there's something that feels good in my life today. And I just started noticing like my body was feeling good, my heart was feeling good, my mind is feeling clear. And soon after she started teaching me, I was like, I have to do more of this. And I got into practicing yoga every day. And as I said, like that was a season in my life where I practiced yoga every single day. Like every single day I was practicing yoga, like all the time, every single second, wherever, whenever. And after that, it was probably about 2 years when I was like practicing full on every single day and really like getting into it. And after that, I was like, I've had such incredible shifts to this. Like, I have to pass this on. I have to give this to other people. And that's when I did my yoga teacher training, and I did my first training in London, and then taught for 2.5 years after that, and then did a second training in India and taught a little bit more after that. And I've done a prenatal training and pregnancy training, and I teach some kids yoga, and it's just a beautiful practice to be able to share with people, and I get to connect with people on a really deep level, especially like with the retreats and the workshops and the deeper dive stuff that I'm doing. It's a really beautiful thing to be able to share with people. So yeah, that's a big love story of mine is this yoga practice and how I can help people.
So if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you would have been doing?
Um, sometimes I think to myself, like, this journey of self-development and this journey of like personal growth is never ending. And it's like, if I could put my blinkers on and just like not focus on any of it, like life would be really easy in terms of you just shut everything down and you go to work, you come back, you live your life, you get drunk on the weekends and you just repeat, rinse and repeat. Like, and that would be, I think, a very easy life to do. Of course, it has its challenges, as everybody has challenges in life. But like when you are really like peeling back the layers and like going deeper and deeper, like sure that you can brush up against things like, oh, I need to change these behaviors, and am I ready to? And what does it look like? And when am I navigating this new space? And what is real connection? So if I wasn't doing all this like deep dive work, I'd probably be doing some kind of graphic work. I'd be just maybe going full on into the stationery or the graphic design side of things. Um, and yeah, maybe I'd have more of like a greeting cards range. I still do some greeting cards, but it's not a huge focus of where I am right now. And yeah, I expand more on that side of things as opposed to the human aspect and sharing and being with other people. So yeah, I think, I don't know if that answers your question in terms of what I'd be doing. I always do feel like I would have loved to work in the post office. Like sorting mail would have been quite a nice job, I feel.
And you're always walking down to your post office there.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like this idea of like just sorting mail and like it's very systematic and it's structured and it's like, although I'd probably be bored out of my mind, but then I'd have all this time in my life to be able to do creative projects just for the sake of creating.
You would probably find it like a meditation.
Yeah, exactly. That like that, yeah, routine, that system that just like wrote again and again, it just become like a kind of a meditation. But I think whatever I was doing in terms of my profession, there would be creative practices involved somewhere in it, whether it's just for like a personal perspective, whether it's photography, whether it's, you know, writing or journaling or blogging or whatever. Like there would be some kind of creative outlet for sure for me. Whether that was my profession or whether it was something else.
Yeah, I think when I think of the word creative, you always come to mind. Like you are creative in every aspect that you do.
But I also think that everybody is creative and everybody can tap into creative potential. But there's so many things in the mind that stop us from accessing that because we tell ourselves that we can't, or we tell ourselves that we're not good enough, or we tell ourselves that our teachers taught us something when we were 5 or 6 or whatever. And we distance ourselves from that and that creative potential. And this is something that it comes up in a book called The Artist's Way. It's like that creative potential is source, and that source, whether you believe it to be divinity, whether you believe it to be God, whether you believe it to be energy, consciousness, it doesn't, the label at that level doesn't really serve anyone. But that creative potential, that natural creative intelligence, that consciousness is where all potential exists. And when we distance ourselves from that, we disconnect. And what for me at least, what the practice of yoga is about removing all those layers in between us and that place of connection. So for me, the yoga practice and the creative practices are one and the same because they bring us to that same place of feeling whole, of feeling connected, of feeling inspired, and really in tune with that creative potential plane that exists.
Okay, so what are your personal and professional plans going forward?
So personal and professional. Well, let's start professional first. That's probably easier. So at the moment, I run a Move, Breathe, Create platform, and that really is this interplay between yoga, the body, breath work, stillness, introspection, and in these creative practices, which fuel our sense of feeling inspired, feeling connected, expression, getting our voice out in whatever medium suits us. And that is something that I've been sharing in retreats. So I've done weekend retreats that incorporate the two, and it works really well with the chakra system, which is the system of yoga and the energetic body that we have in our yoga space. So each energy center in the body is connected to a different element. So we've got the earth, which is our grounding element. We've got water, which is our sense of emotions and the emotional body. And we've got the fire center, which is our sense of willpower, determination. And I've been working with this in the creative space as well. In these retreats, is that, we do grounding yoga practices with breath work and the feet and the pelvic floor. And then we do these practices where we really get on our hands and create paints by grounding the feet, by grounding your hands, by grounding your elbows, different parts of your body. And then we move into water element, and we do practices that involve like water elements and the swirling, spiraling motion. And then we explore and experiment with watercolors, and we talk about emotions. And then we do charcoal work, and we do fire element and this really sweaty dynamic practice. We work with this charcoal expression and find the shadows. And it's just like for me, it's a really beautiful way to integrate what I'm doing. And from where I'm going further with that is I'm building out a retreat that is going to be a voyage to the soul retreat, which will be a retreat that incorporates the body, which incorporates the breath, and which incorporates all these different creative practices to bring you to a place of peace, to bring you to that place of potential, to bring you to a place of real deep healing. And that's something that I'm still building out at the moment, but I see that being more and more as something that will be like a key cornerstone offering of where I'm moving to in the future. These this 1 week retreats where people can come and really like deep dive and really explore something that's within themselves that really will shift something for them. Because for me, it has to move through the body. The body is a key element for this. And yeah, there's so much other trainings and things that I'm busy on now that are fueling and inspiring me and giving me different tools to be able to put into that retreat that will really help people.
Amazing. I've been enjoying watching your journey through all of this as well.
So that's definitely something that I'm moving to, and I would love to in future is host a couples retreat. So Warren and I would hopefully in future host a couples retreat where there'll be Thai yoga, massage that you do together, and then couples practices that you do together, and then yoga and men's circles, women's circles, but really finding that close connection with the person that you are connected to with in your day-to-day, and really deepening that bond and strengthening that bond so that we can have really healthy, happy people out in the world. Because when people are healthy, happy within themselves and their relationships, that has a knock-on effect to their children, their families, their co-workers, their colleagues, their friends. Like it really starts from you. So yeah, that's definitely an offering that I'm looking to do in the future, and it would be amazing to do it with Warren.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So how are you enjoying life in London and your corona quarantine? And do we even discuss the toilet paper fail?
The toilet paper fail. So yeah, corona has swept through London in a massive way. I started self-isolating because I was like, you know what, I think I've got this. And so I decided to just house myself up and didn't do it with much preparation. So had no toilet paper, had no supplies, had nothing. And toilet paper has now since literally disappeared off the shelves. I'm like, oh shit. I don't know if I can swear on your podcast. Too late.
No, go for it.
So anyway, there's so now I've tried to hunt down toilet paper, and the only toilet paper that I could find was on Amazon. So I ordered it. 6 rolls, giant rolls that arrived, and they are literally industrial sized toilet rolls, like the size that you see in those like portaloos with the big like round things. So we've had to like saw them in half so that they even fit into our toilet roll holder. And so that is the current situation of our toilet paper at the moment. So yeah, we didn't do too well on that, but hopefully we've got enough to last us through this self-isolation phase.
And what's the weather like there now? Because obviously it's winter there. It's summer here now. So we're like sweating. I had to turn the aircon off because otherwise the sound was terrible. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm sweating here. It's like getting a little detox.
No, it's actually not too bad. We're moving into summer. So the days are getting a little bit longer, which is always so hopeful and promising. And today's quite a nice sunny day, which I think the coronavirus has made it hard on people when the sun shines out, because London doesn't have a lot of sunny days. So when the sun is out, everybody's like, we need to get into the sun, and then the parks are all packed, and then Boris Johnson's like, no guys, you can't be doing that. So I think there might be an enforced lockdown that's happening soon. We'll have to keep posted on that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we got announced last night and like you guys haven't even had a proper one yet.
Yeah, South Africa's been very forward on this, haven't they?
Yeah.
From what I've heard is that they were going for a slightly outliers approach in the UK of trying to cultivate herd immunity. So they're wanting more of the population who are fit and healthy and can get the disease or get the virus and not really get too symptomatic. And so that they can build the immunity so that it's not transmitted through them if it comes back. So that is, I think, the thinking of why the UK has been so delayed in pushing out these forced closures, because they're trying to get as much of the population who are healthy to actually get it, is what I've heard. But who knows if that's the right approach? I have no idea.
I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, like you say, we don't know. But I mean, good in theory.
Yeah, good in theory, but yeah, and then it's the practical of like, gosh. But I think also like the UK, as much as it's going to be under pressure, like they do have quite a robust system, whereas I think South Africa, like the healthcare system is probably going to be in a lot more strain, and there's a lot more potential high risk people in South Africa that if it gets to townships and locations, like I think it's going to have a massive effect. So yeah, there's a lot more risk in South Africa, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So should we get Warren in for a question?
Yes. Warren, are you going to come in for a question? He's coming in.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks, and yourself?
I'm good, thanks. It's so weird when you've like watched someone on someone's stories. I'm like, I feel like I know you, but I don't.
Here's the voice. How can I help?
So this podcast is basically about self-love.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, I'm just making this up on the spot. What has been your favorite thing about watching Che's journey? Obviously, you've known her like the longest, from start to finish where you are today, like her self-love journey and her self-worth.
I would say it's seeing her develop into the person that I knew she was and I knew she could be. And having seen her from, well, when we first got together at Rhodes, like that there was this beautiful person inside, and obviously, as she's explained, the relationship that she had suppressed that a lot. And after when we got back together, seeing her become herself again has been a beautiful thing to watch, and it has been a process, and she worked hard at it, and it's been inspiring to be a part of that as well. And to see her go through that journey and share it with her.
Yeah, and you've been a big part of it for me.
Yeah, but it has. It's been nice to be a part of it too. Yeah, so that's, I would say.
Well, it's been nice to watch.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So what is your Sunday stories going to look like on Sunday? Are there rusks? Is there coffee? Do you have enough supplies? You've got toilet paper?
Yeah, we've definitely got toilet paper. And hopefully we're going to have rusks. We ordered some online through one of the South African shops here in the UK, and they've been shipped. So hopefully they get delivered in the next day or two. So we'll have rusks on Sunday.
And we haven't had rusks in a long time.
Yeah, it's basically the whole year, because we didn't have them during the gut reset at the start of the year, so we haven't had them since. So I'm looking forward to that. More so than Sunday stories.
I was like, there's something missing. It's rusks.
Exactly.
Oh gosh. Oh.
Thank you for joining us, Warren.
Thank you.
It was very nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
Come out of your cave.
Cheers. I must head back now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, you guys are the best. So, where can people stalk you online?
So the best place to find me is chedyer.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Indie Yoga Life. And Facebook, Che Dyer Yoga. But I'm sure Jane will put all this into the show notes. If you search Che Dyer,
you're a podcaster.
You can see I'm a podcaster. You can find my podcast, Kombucha in Color. We need to have you on the show, Jane. We'll have to set up a date.
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, now that we are all at home.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's kind of everywhere where I'm online, mainly Instagram. You can check out our Sunday stories. Warren and I every Sunday do a Sunday stories on Instagram. So just catching up, checking in with each other and checking in with the world.
And showing us your toilet paper.
Exactly. Tune in for next
No, it's
episode.
amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for giving me of your
Thank
time.
you
We've
so
had such a nice
much.
long chat. I think this is the longest one I've done with
Yeah.
anyone. It's amazing.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and stay safe, stay relatively warm. I suppose it's getting warmer there now, and
Yes.
I hope you get your rusks in time for Sunday.
Thank you. Stay well, Jay, and thank you for having me.
Thanks, my friend.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to Unselfishly Me. Follow us on Instagram at unselfishlyme and check out our website www.unselfishlyme.com.